Commissioner Mattare.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Chad. Really, the idea for this was I'm a member on the board of KMPO. And many of you have a say as to what happens in this community with respect to the roads and transportation. And it just seems like after being a commissioner here for coming up on finishing my second year, there hasn't really been any discussions from the cities about transportation, the future of it, and so forth. And so I spoke with a couple of cities and just asked, would you have an appetite to have a discussion about looking into a joint powers agreement for the city link, because the cities are largely the biggest beneficiaries of it, and yet it's the county commissioners that run it. And so a draft, and I mean a draft, was distributed to the mayors as just a baseline starting point discussion. It's not what it is. It's really just a place to start from. It makes it easier when you have something you can start from, as opposed to just trying to come up with something from scratch. So it really is just an ask today. Would the cities have an appetite at looking at developing a joint powers arrangement to manage CityLink?
I'm willing to continue to contribute, but I need to look at that in more detail. I'd much rather just contribute.
Okay. Anybody else?
Are you looking to just partner with the joint powers agreement just for the jurisdictions that are being served by CityLink currently?
Or those who want to be served?
So, I mean, to expand your service area, it sounds like it's defined by something else. That's you don't have the ability to provide service to Spirit Lake, for instance, or Athol.
Well, it could be provided if additional funding was put on the table. So, like Chad mentioned.
And your guys' system is a fare free?
It's free. There is no fare.
Just out of curiosity, the question that comes to mind is what's failing now that warrants the cities to jump in when the county, as the umbrella, is essentially entering into a JPA, so to speak, not necessarily, regarding our contributions in the organization run through this body. I'm trying to figure out what's not working about that would warrant a discussion about this now.
I don't think it's a matter of something that's not working as much as it's a matter of you're two commissioners away of connecting to Spokane. You're two commissioners away of making decisions, policy decisions that may or may not be in the best interest of the city of Hayden. And so it really gives you an opportunity to have a seat at a table. The more people who participate, the more stable it likely would be. Every 2 years, commissioners, a board can change.
You mentioned that the funding kind of dictates the service area. What kind of funding is necessary to expand that service area?
So we do have a cost allocation model that we are putting together, and we have put together for fiscal year 22 and 23. So that I can get you numbers on that, on what a cost would look like to kind of build out to Raptor and what it would be if it was a fixed route service. Because like I talked about, with the fixed route service, you're required to put ADA paratransit around it. And ADA paratransit is where the costs kind of increase quite substantially. So there are different methods of which we can provide transportation out there without it being a traditional fixed route. And so then it would be a little bit cheaper to do those kind of systems and do runs like that. So if you do a commuter route and it only runs certain times of the day for certain lengths and it can't have a large number of stops, then it would be substantially cheaper than doing your traditional fixed route. But that is something that I can provide you for you, give you some information on that.
Please.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Is this something that the cities would like to talk further about? Yeah, I, in essence, have a no from Dalton Gardens at this point.
For the county at this point on if it went to this type of a structure of joint powers, you're still at the table?
Yes.
We still get your 64,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, it's just you're saying we're more in touch with each other?
You're now a part of a body that sets the policy for CityLink.
Oh, sorry, rather than just the county.
The county commissioners are doing that right now.
Okay, thank you.
But going to a joint powers will be more expensive because right now we have some, shared services within the county. And so, they use our legal, they use our grants, auditors department, those kinds of things. So going to a joint powers would increase that cost because the joint powers would have to provide all of those things. So likely the funds, you would have to take more from each entity involved to make that joint powers happen. And so to the point of being more involved, we can always have discussions. Any entity is always welcome to come to the commissioners and have those talks if there's policy decisions or something like that that they want to be involved in. Doesn't necessarily have to increase the size of government and go to a full JPA. I did have a draft, a memorandum of understanding, super draft, but it just talks about, what our relationship is. And again, the agency's funding can always say, well, we're not going to participate anymore unless we have these conversations, which, it hasn't happened. I think we've worked well with the different agencies. And hooking up with Spokane, that's why I would like to have a discussion on a MOU, because we can enter into an MOU that says that the cities and whoever joins this MOU would have that say in connecting out of county, out of state, and it wouldn't just be two commissioners that would be able to make that decision. So I'm happy to distribute that for future conversations. And again, it's just a super rough draft, just kind of like the JPA was.
Well, I certainly would like to see it because I know I spoke with the board about the JPA. Mm-hmm. And so this is a little bit of a surprise, pleasant or not. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm not sure I would agree that it requires an expansion as much. But yes, there are some services. KMPO is able to effectively do this cost efficiently. For many of what they do, the services that they provide. So I think it really just comes down to, do you want to entertain sitting down with a board from each city representing this program? Or would you prefer to keep it more in the hands of the county and you don't have an interest in it? But that's really the question today, is to see if the cities want to continue the dialogue.
Mr. Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity to look at the draft agreement. I mean, the city's of Coeur d'Alene is going into the agreement with CityLink, which the county is the legal authority to receive and dispense those federal funds for planning. From the administrator of the city of Coeur d'Alene's point of view, we don't know at all what Chad knows on the back of his hand versus transit and all those dollars. They seem to be quite encumbered. The feds have a lot of criteria with all those grants and everything going on. So from my desk, I'm not elected, I'm appointed, which can change any given day. This is working quite well. I do appreciate and would like to add that we would like to have maybe a representative on working through stops or addressing and I don't even know them all, Chad, so I apologize, the ingress and egress to North Idaho. So I'm at the micro level of this. You know, as he buys buses, kudos. The partnership here is phenomenal. And we have another, I'm going to use that word multiple times, I apologize. There's an EMS system that 25 years ago was so broken it was bankrupt. We could, as a city, have taken that on. Northern Lakes could have done that. Because we're urbanized, we have the run volume. We'd be happy to take over EMS. However, we have neighbors in Spirit Lake, Athol, and down in Harrison that if we did that, they would not have the revenue to cover this county. So I look at CityLink that way, and this is Troy Tyneson, no elected, is saying it. But we'd love to enhance the program, more stops, build cooler bus stops, and do those things in our town. But you're able to oversee it and move it up to Hayden and Dalton and take it over to Post Falls. We're a little bit territorial. Nothing against Post Falls, a great city, but they're really well run. I don't know that we want to be in there. But if we had an opportunity to have input when they're looking at routes, when they're looking at changes, when they're talking about bringing our friends from Spirit Lake down when they write the big check, we'd be happy to be in on that. But the way I read the agreement, we were taking over assets and we were going to have liabilities, and we're not really good in that business at the city of Coeur d'Alene.
Well, I understand, and that's certainly one of the questions that, as a county commissioner, I get asked by constituents. You know, we're taking on the liability, but the benefit is largely for the cities, and you know that is a question that you know is not an easy one to answer in that sense. It's not a state mandated service, and it is largely for the benefit of the cities. And as this place grows, more cities would obviously fall into the jurisdiction of it as far as where the grant money could be used for, according to Chad. But it is one of those things, and that's why I say you're 2 commissioners away. Because when those questions get asked, at some point, someone's going to say, you know, why are we doing this? And without a seat at the table, you're going to be at the whim of those 2 commissioners.
And there's checks and balances. The city of Coeur d'Alene has an annual agreement.
Yeah.
And so not that we want to go there, but that is always a choice on the city. The other side to that is if I looked at the cash flow from property taxes to Kootenai County, I believe I'm going to see over 50% is coming from the urbanized area of your county that you get to govern. So we are contributing as constituents and taxpayers in the city to the county's revenue to provide the services. But I'm going to end on, without these partnerships, this thing doesn't exist, and we probably would have a much different impact if this thing was $300,000-$400,000 to make that CityLink work. So partnerships make it happen. And there's a gentleman across the way here that without the tribe's input and Kootenai Health's input, we're not going to have much of a CityLink system at all. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, 64% of the city populations are the ones that are served by CityLink right now. Ms. Ailport, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you earlier. Did you want to add something?
I got my question answered.
Okay, great. And again, I mean, for me, just speaking for me, I'm happy to have bigger, broader partnerships with our partners to have those discussions, yearly meetings, whatever needs to happen. At this point, though, I don't want to increase the size of government. I don't want to break something that's not broken right now. And again, just maintaining those dialogues, I think, is important. But if people want to, you know, take a look at this draft MOU, then it would be something that, you know, we can have conversations on. So, and again, it's just kind of brief to the point, but I would point out the portion about connecting out of county or out of state, I think, is one that should be addressed and would be a good conversation to have. I do appreciate the fact that to Mr. Thompson's point, the CityLink being under the county, it can be a little bit more neutral and see a bigger picture and be able to balance some of the needs from all the partners instead of, Ms. Elport and I are very familiar with a current JPA that we're trying to dissolve, and it's not a very happy situation. So if we can keep government small, then I think we benefit, because I think then the money goes towards the actual service and not towards anything else. Again, this is a draft, just meant to further the conversation if the cities felt like they wanted a bigger say in this. Rathdrum is included in this. I didn't really, just kind of, again, stab in the dark. So anything else on? Yes.
Commissioner Mattare, can you give us a sense of what you see as the benefits of a JPA over an MOU approach like this? From someone who's not a lawyer, these both sound like a mechanism to give cities a seat at the table, and I don't really see what the practical difference is in the two.
Well, without actually having a chance to really kind of go through this and think about it a little bit, again, the intention was to answer the question, why is the county taking on these liabilities like this? And, the beneficiaries are largely the cities. And while I recognize the fact that, 50 to 60% of the people in the cities comprise the tax revenue for the county, that's not all of them. And the state mandated services are things that everyone in the county gets the benefit of, and not just in specific pockets throughout the county. So that was the thinking behind it. And it was a start. So clearly, by initiating this and starting this, Commissioner Duncan felt the need to continue this and sees the value of it, not just from a JPA perspective, but from getting others involved. That hasn't happened before I came on board. So I was really just trying to start the conversation. There's a lot of things that haven't been happening, including these meetings prior to me coming on board. So, that's the whole intention of this, is to start getting people involved in these discussions, because what we do affects you and what you do affects us. So, if anything, I'm glad to see Commissioner Duncan take the initiative on this.
Well, you do forget that it takes two commissioners to do quite a bit of stuff, and that has not always been my privilege. So,
well, that may be true.
I'm happy to have those conversations.
But it takes one commissioner to speak. And I've never heard that before. I haven't heard that as far as I've been waiting to try to get these mayors' meetings going for a long time. I've been waiting to have this conversation because I've been saying this stuff for a while. So, again, I applaud you for taking the initiative and putting this together, and I look forward to looking through it. And, hopefully the other cities, you folks will want to participate in this.
So regardless of the specific mechanism, it does sound like a good idea for us to be getting together and having conversations. So thank you both for
that is the intention.
Yeah. And then, so my question is, are any of the cities signed up to do the strategic planning ride along? So Troy is, okay. Yeah.
I received a survey to vote or poll what the best time was, but I didn't see a specific sign up or scheduling of what the decision was from.
Okay, so based on your survey responses, he should have got an email. Oh, sorry.
So for Rathdrum, since they